Have you ever thought about just giving up on whatever your dream or goal was? I certainly have. What up? I'm Josh Paulison, a game programmer at Defiance Game Studio since early 2021. So before I get into the main topic, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've been doing at work because I figure that could be interesting. And if you think that's boring, then you can skip ahead and I'll give you the timestamp below. So most recently, I've actually been working on stuff that's probably not going to seem as exciting from a game development perspective. I've been working on a tool for recording footage, very low resolution, low frame rate footage, so that when somebody submits a bug report from within our game, then they can end up sending a little bit of footage with it. And so that way, hopefully it takes a little bit less pressure off of them, as in like, hey, I have to perfectly explain everything. And then it also gives us more information so that we can better assess bugs and get more information. And that's in addition to player logs and stuff so that we can really figure out what's going on and help resolve those issues. Firebird commented on my last video, when did you first get into game design and did you ever think of quitting? I feel bad skipping over the first question, so I'll briefly answer it, although I'm also going to point out to two videos in one of these two corners where one of them was an interview when I first joined Defiance Game Studio, that's on the company channel, and then the other one is how I got started, and I talk a little bit more about that on my own personal channels. Check out both of those if you're really interested to hear more of that, or feel free to ask me more questions if you're like, this isn't enough. The answer that I kind of give is that I started on game design when I was probably around 4 years old and started using Warcraft 2's level editor. I know I was way too young to play Warcraft 2, but whatever. That's how I got started, and it wasn't until later that I started creating whole games with GameMaker. I was like 8-9 years old when I started in that, but I learned my earliest game design lessons when I was around 4 years old. Yeah, I'm really grateful for those early experiences. So, did you ever think of quitting? There's a few different ways that I could take this question, and I think that they're all interesting. One of them is, did I ever think of giving up on the dream of becoming a game developer? One of the things that I would say to that is I've always been mainly interested in entertainment. That's my bread maker. Dagnabbit, did I ever think of quitting as far as entertainment goes? No. I always assumed that I would get in. I always assumed that there would be somewhere that I would get in. I wasn't necessarily thinking of games. So I never figured that I would not get into entertainment someday. But I've given up on a lot of projects. And I think that's kind of an important distinction. So actually right here, I've got this mug, Stories LC. This was one of my earliest failed attempts. So part of what I'm thinking of is what is the most helpful for me to talk about? Because I know that some of this, it might be simply asking out of curiosity, but some of it might also be, hey, I'm thinking of quitting. I don't know what to do. And even if that's not you, Firebird, there might be somebody else out there who's feeling that way. And so what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna focus on my time of deepest despair when it came to entertainment and projects. My time of deepest despair was in my early 20s. So I started on Stories LC, and I didn't have a business plan. I thought I had a business plan. All I had were a bunch of projects that I wanted to do. I didn't have a good product that I was selling, and it was always incomplete. I didn't have the experience to push it forward. I didn't have the following to make it work, and I insisted on focusing on that over and over and over again, and it was doomed to failure. Now, there was a lot of learning that I got out of it, and I wouldn't trade that because all of those lessons that I've learned have been really helpful for me in moving into web programming and moving into my previous job at a neurotechnology company, and also now moving to Defiance. I really needed those experiences for me to grow and to develop and to be able to provide the value that I do today. But it was not good at the time. It was terrible. And when I say that that my business was failing, here's what that means. I didn't have any money. I had like one real meal a week. I didn't have clean water where I lived for a while. They changed out the water system later into where it was better. I don't know if it was drinkable still, but I didn't have good food. I didn't have good water. I didn't have good income. I was late on rent all the time. And I was too ashamed to tell anybody about it because I was like, I'm gonna look like an idiot. My car was always on the lowest gas possible to where I regularly wondered if the next red light that I stopped at would be where my car would just stop and die. And that was my life for over 2 years, and I didn't tell anybody because I was ashamed. And so the biggest mistake that I made was not letting people into that pain. And what I mean by that is not being like, you need to help me, you need to save me, but hey, this is what I'm going through and it sucks. I had people telling me, you're killing it, like you're doing awesome, you're doing amazing. And that was because I had some successes along the way. Like I gave a TEDx talk on how stories work. I spoke at Digital Summit. In my mind, I was like, this is what's gonna make me big. This is what's gonna get me going forward. And then when it didn't, I was like, well, crap, I have no backup plan. I have no income, like I don't have anything. And so a few of the big problems that I see happening there. One of them is that I didn't have a good mentor. I had multiple people willing to mentor me who would have been good, and I had people willing to mentor me who would not have been good. But I didn't take those people up on it, and part of that I think was because I was ashamed and embarrassed, and some of it was just because, honestly, if there's not something regularly scheduled, I don't keep up with it. That's something I'm really bad at, and that's something where I kind of needed, perhaps in those cases, to say, hey, I know I need this. Could you contact me? Or I needed to set some sort of scheduled reminder for myself. And another huge point of failure for me was that I was not focused on what's best for the customer or where I provided the most value. Instead, I was focused on where I wanted to go to provide the most value. And I really think that a large part of my failure came down to a lack of openness with people who cared about me. People who cared about me who were wise and would give good input. I'm gonna add that because there are people who cared about me who had bad advice, really bad advice. And one of the things that can be hard is that when you're driving after something that you care about, it can be like, hey, I don't want to let this go. And the thing is that I'm glad that I didn't, which is going to sound really weird given everything that I just said, but I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing today if I hadn't. And there are so many lessons that I learned to where it's like, yeah, that was terrible. I don't recommend anyone else ever follow what I did, but I learned a lot. And I'm hoping that that can be shared with other people and that can help them. And so those are really formative years to where, like, for example, now I'm really grateful for anything. Like when I'm drinking water, I still think at times, I remember when I didn't have clean water to drink. Like that was bad. And so now I can be grateful for that when I wasn't before. My main thing, if I was going to go back to myself in time and speak to myself back then, I would have, and this might sound very counter, but I would have advised myself, don't move out. That was shortly after my father passed away, and that was one of the worst decisions of my life that I look back on. And that might sound really weird, like, well, Josh, like, you were an adult, you should have moved out. I wasn't ready. It was within a year of my father passing away, and I didn't know what I was doing. It was really foolish. And I realized that those are the times when it's the easiest to make foolish decisions, which is why I also have something where if it's around the anniversary of a sensitive date, like my father's passing, I try to avoid making really important decisions. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but if I have to make an important decision, I want to get more feedback on it because I ended up, like the first year anniversary, made some terrible decisions that really screwed me. And yeah, I think that one of the biggest things for anybody is that you need a safe group of people to talk with. And if you're not sure where to find that group, I wish I had easy answers for you, like, here's where you find them. Because there's a lot of factors there. You might find a group where some people are safe, some people aren't safe. You might find a group where it's like, you're not really sure. And I think that the biggest thing in finding a safe group is that a safe group doesn't mean that you go there the first time and you spill everything. A safe group means that you grow in connection and relationship, and you can share those pieces along the way and walk together through those. It's not about I can dump everything here. It's about we can grow together. And so I think that one of the big things with finding a community is remembering that it's a community. It's not a you-munity. It's not a me-meanity. It's a community. And so it needs to be how are we moving forward, not just how am I moving forward. Though you're a part of the community, so you need to be moving forward too. But if it's not a we, you're not going to make the progress that you need to. So yeah, my biggest thing would be having a group of people that you can be open with. And I also really want to say, you're going to have failures. You're going to have epic failures. You're going to have failures that you might feel ashamed of for years. I'm thankful that I can look back and I can talk about this and not feel ashamed. But yeah, stories I'll see, failure. But help me learn things and become more of the person that I am today, or just help me in so many different ways. I don't know if that helps anyone. I don't know if that encourages anyone. I don't know if you hear that and you go, wow, this guy's a screw up. You don't know the half of it. I think that a big thing is really having that community of openness. And for some people that might be like start with a therapist, but ideally you get more than one person. Because if you only have one person, then you only have one perspective, and it might be a very wise perspective, and that's great. But ideally you have multiple people who can speak into your life and encourage you and lift you up. I don't know if that helps anyone. I really hope so. So I'm also going to answer viewer comments at the end of these videos, but I'm going to specifically answer ones that I think would apply to more than just that person. Feel free to ask me personalized questions, but I'll focus on answering ones that I think that a lot of people would get something from. So the Candyman asked 2 questions. What do you use to code, and what is your favorite game you have made so far? So for what do I use to code? At work we use Visual Studio, and also I will use Notepad++ for some side projects and web development projects. And the second question was, what is your favorite game you've made so far? I hate answering this, not because I don't have an answer, but because it's actually a very silly answer. Because my favorite game that I've made so far is not based on artistic merit, but just because it was a fun project. And that is Button. Button was a game that I put on Kickstarter. I had a $10 goal, and it was you click a button and you increment a number. And I made all this fake drama around it about, oh man, this is such a hard game. And it made $90, and $2 came from somebody that I actually knew. The rest of it was complete strangers. And it was cool because after the fact, I had some messages like, thanks, that was fun to follow. And one person even said, yeah, me and my son were going through this together, and we just thought it was great. It was fun seeing the new updates that you were doing and stuff like that. And that was just a lot of fun. And I'll link to that game in the description and the Kickstarter. It's a stupid game, but everybody who's discovered it that I've met has loved it and been like, this is amazing. And I did a sequel to it, Analog, which ended up making like $300+. I pushed it a lot more. That was so fun and so stupid. But those I'd say are my favorite projects that I've finished so far. That's something that I need to clarify, that I've finished so far. Archmage Rises at work is definitely going to be my new favorite project that I finished. Because yeah, Button and Analog don't. They're pretty good, but I don't think they're going to match the level that Archmage is going to hit. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to comment and let me know if you have any questions or comments or queries or whatever the heck you have. I stream on Twitch where I study games and I play them wrong in order to draw lessons out of them. I do these vlogs every other week. If you liked this video, then please like it. If you want more of it and you want to know when there's more of it, then please subscribe. Have a fantastic rest of your day. It's all the perfect temperature where I can just chug this now.